creepy as it is fun. We have an abductable, delectable selection of cheeses and sauces. And don't forget hot dogs. Featuring wholesome live music entertainment that's not at all hypnotic. Go balls deep on one of our many ping pong tables. Then come deep inside and see our newly renovated soundproof daycare. They'll be fine. Try our all-new Spirit Kitchen soups and salads.
What the fuck is that?
Don't let hunger get away with molesting your day. Pedos to pizza. Good times and creepy vibes, or we'll eat your kids free. You mean kids eat free? Yeah, what you said.
Welcome to our important episode with the #1 expert on Epstein. He has been researching Epstein for years upon years upon years. And finally, he's able to see some kind of fruits to the extensive amount of research he's been doing over the years. The cancellation, the isolation, no one's been platforming him. But finally, Epstein has become mainstream. The information has become mainstream. And this guy is the #1 guy. And guess what, guys? He's on the Epstein Files. We're going to have to speak about that. Let's start at the beginning, Ryan. Ryan, the Epstein Files have been released. I've never seen you so happy about it. You mentioned on a tweet that you'd seen the fruits of your labor almost to a small extent be realized. Give us your thoughts on that.
Yeah, this journey started for me way back about 19 years ago, looking into Jean-Luc Brunel. He's one of these slime balls. He's dead now, died in prison. He had a modeling agency, and he was friends with Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. And from him, that led me to the rest of this cabal. And it just kept getting larger and larger, all the people involved. It seemed unreal. And eventually he buys an island, and he's got Bill Clinton down there, U.S. presidents, plural, prime ministers, royalty, foreign ministers, and a lot of people in finance, science, and technology were targeted. A lot of speculators and hedgies, as if you needed another reason to hate those people or the governments. And now you're seeing it, Peter Mandelson roaming around in his underwear in Rape Mansion, and everybody from Noam Chomsky to Lutnick, Reid Hoffman, Pritzker. It's like a list that I've been pushing for a long time. Right, I've got the file on my desk. We knew all these people right there at the top: Jess Staley, Glenn Dubin, and so on, for a long time. Tried to put it out. Some people listened, many didn't, but now it's pretty much unavoidable. And now it's not just like journalists or people posting things online. And there were some, from Vanity Fair, Miami Herald, and all that tried to dig at this story. And there were even some on, I got to say, like CBS pre-Barry Weiss that wanted to do the story, like Dana Roebuck, and they were told to shut up and not do it. So it's not like nobody else knew. There was nowhere to go with the story. It was so big, so huge, kind of the too big to fail, like the mortgage-backed security fraud of 2008. This was a too big to jail. These are the richest people in the world. It's Bill Gates, Elon Musk. It's like the movers and shakers of science and tech were all involved. And I hate the people are like, well, I didn't go to the island. That might be true, because that doesn't matter, because they didn't only do that on that island. He had 2 islands, by the way, and Branson has an island too. And he had Nexium parties there. We can talk about him in a minute. And Peter Nygaard owned a big chunk of Bahamas, and he did the same thing. Robert Miller up in Quebec. Like, there's a bunch of pedophile rings, but it's the Epstein ring that isn't just doing it to, rich guys getting off. He had a compromise, and this guy was making deals for the Israeli state, and it's all out.
Yeah.
He worked for Mossad, so did the Maxwell's family. Glenn's the daughter of a spy. Arben Menashe blew the whistle on this long time ago, said, yeah, I worked in Israeli intelligence. Epstein was there, and nobody listened to him. They're all like, but Acosta said it's intelligence. I wonder who. Well, you know what the media is saying? It's Russia. It's like, oh, you've got all these Jewish billionaires openly talking about everyone else as the goyim, and they think it's the Russians.
And we're going to talk about that because I want to do a section where we talk about Israeli intelligence, because I feel like you're the best person who makes that connection. And I want to talk about also Jewish supremacy, because we've seen that come out in the files. But just before we do, in terms of when you look at the release of the files, only 50% of the files have been released. 50% have not been released. They're 42 days late. What do you think the reason is why they've released 42 days late? What's the reason why they've released the 50%? If you look at the 50%, largely speaking, as people who've either passed, people who've already retired, or people whose names we kind of had, but now we've got more depth, breadth, and more information. But there's a lot of people on the who are linked to Epstein who are not on that. So what do you think the reason for this release of 50% is?
Well, it's fun too, because a lot of these people said, oh, I cut off all relations with him after we found out he was a pedophile. And they act like they just didn't know he was doing that before. And then after he got convicted, well, then we just cut ties. And like, no, none of you did. Like, you all kept, you not only like hanging with him, you're participating in the things he was doing. And so you're seeing that. And they're going to deny it. They're like, okay, so I continue to hang out with him. But you see Richard Branson doing PR. It's like, we can get Bill Gates to say, so what? You're with a 17-and-a-half-year-old and you're sorry. It's not true. The 2005 case against Epstein is several 14-year-olds, not a 17-and-a-half-year-old. Like, but they're openly talking about what they can probably get Bill Gates to say because they owned him. They had him by the shorties. Bill Gates had already been having extramarital affairs. His wife said she divorced him over Epstein, and now we know why. And he got an STD from Russian girls. Doesn't tell you the age. Doesn't really matter. But you're asking, like, why now? You have to kind of rewind and see how much teeth pulling this took from Thomas Massey and company to get this done. Because at first, Donald Trump was like, it's a hoax. Well, actually, at first, before they got into government, people like Pam Bondi and stuff were saying, you know, that they would release all the files and da-da-da. And then when she got in, she's like, it's on my desk, like any moment now. And they did this stunt where they gave these white binders to a bunch of Zionist influencers, which you knew right there, like every single one of them was a Zionist. And it's like, those are the ones you handpicked to give a binder to. Like, oh, they're going to dig in. And it was nothing but like redacted flight logs and stuff that had been out forever. It's just, it's stupid. And I think I was on Myron's show and I said, here's what they're going to do. They're going to release some flight logs and redundant mess. And that's exactly what they did. I was like, you're not going to get these files. Then they got a congressional order to release the files, not an executive order. They got a congressional order to do it. Mm-hmm. So Trump tried to do an executive order and pulled this stunt, like, there you go, boom, there's the file, that's it. That didn't work because everyone's like, this is all stuff we already had. Now we've gotten a lot more internal communications. It's emails mainly. That's the main juicy bits, because I still want people to pay attention to the court documents with Deutsche Bank and JP Morgan. I know it's boring, but like, this is the important part. Like, that's what shows all the leverage and what they were really doing, what the operation was about. So don't ignore the court documents, but emails are publicly digestible. Oh my God, so-and-so said so-and-so and they're at a party. Like, that's very like TMZ level. Like, everyone knows, but you need that to kind of get your foot in the door, get interest, and then talk about the other things. So this latest dump has a lot of internal communications, and it also has some pretty disgusting photos. Even with the boxes, you're like, oh, you can just tell that really, really young. Like, you know, when you're under 4 feet tall, you're not 18 unless you have a genetic something. So So the Congress's order got around the stunt. And this is what Trump tried to do with JFK and all that, like executive order, and it's all contained in his little clique. And they just re-released some stuff that was already out a little bit more. And James Jesus Angleton, whatever. It's an Israeli op. We all knew that. But I hope Congress will do this for MLK, RFK, JFK. That would be amazing. But we still don't have the rest of these Epstein files. And I guess you can't compromise the entire DOJ, but they can sandbag it from the bottleneck positions. And when you've got 3 million files, and it's enormous levels of redundance. If you anyone that's been researching this, like, I've already seen this page. I've already seen this page. It's like 10, 11 copies of each thing. So it's not really 3 million, especially the photos and stuff. I'm going through the data sets, and there's a lot of repetition. But anyway, they, for whatever reason, they have it out like that from different CDs and things. So maybe like one's on a CD and then the exact same photos were on a hard drive somewhere, but not exactly the same set. So you got to publish them all. So sometimes when you're looking through, if anyone is researching and you're like, oh, I've seen this, keep going, because yeah, you might have seen like same 13 photos in a row, but then there's some new ones under that weren't on the first copy, because one is from this disk, one is from this hard drive, one is from this other thing. So there's a lot of that. And I think just the sheer volume of crime these people are involved in, you're talking millions of files, it took a lot of redacting. They had to go through and cover up email addresses and block people's faces and stuff. And so it took them a while to get all that done. So it might not be anything nefarious, like we're just not going to release them. But it seems to me, because I already know a lot about this, they put the most mild stuff out first. And that last 50% is where, you know, obviously is what they don't want the most. And you can tell the reluctancy on all of them by how they barely got this passed. Like a lot of Republicans voted against it. They tried this executive order stunt with influencers and tried to shame the public, you know. So there's a lot of people, and it's kind of extortion, because if you think about this, they've released half the files that they have. You've got a many billionaires on this list. They have a vested interest in you not releasing the rest of it. And I bet they'd be willing to pay whatever or support whoever campaign for you to not come out with the rest of it.
True. Now, one of the things in the files was this email, and it said, quote, Jeffrey Epstein sent it to somebody. He said, I am in China. I will be in the US in the second week. And then Epstein said on the 24th of April, 2009, where are you? Are you okay? I loved the torture video. You replied and said, do you want to know who you're talking
No. You have to read the email from the bottom up. It's where are you first? I'm in China. Be there second week of May. I'll be in the US or something. By the way, love the torture video. Now, I've seen people blame that on three individuals come up that they were like, oh, that's Jess Staley, because that's what Grok said. Oh, that's Andrew, because he was in China all the time. Oh, that's Bibi Netanyahu, because somebody did a Google search where he met the foreign minister Yang from China on April 23rd, which he did in Jerusalem, not in China. Bibi was in Israel, well, Jerusalem, so Israel, Palestine on the 23rd. He was in Jordan on the 24th. He does go to the U.S. on May 18th, third week of May. So this is some event. Staley was actually visiting Epstein at a jail and doesn't go to China until October. And Prince Andrew was in Korea. So none of them it's none of those three.
So who is it?
Don't know. We have to keep looking, but all those that people came up with, I debunked, because they're like, nope, none of these people were in those spots when you said they were.
Okay, so what you've done is used process of elimination. You've said it's not X, Y, or Z, but
you can't be BB. I mean, it's like, oh, he on April 23rd, he met the foreign minister of China. Like, don't just read the title. He met him in Jerusalem, not in China. He didn't go to China. And after that, he went to Jordan. And after that, he went to New York. So that's that.
Okay. Now, one of the things
Haley was in Florida, and then he does go to China in 2009, but not until October.
No, that makes sense. Now, one of the things I feel like has not been talked about enough in the Epstein files, if you look at the YouTube streamers speaking about it, if you look at the X spaces other than ours speaking about it, one of the things that people aren't speaking about or even delving into is one of the things that you've laid out quite brilliantly, but unfortunately people have not been able to see your work, is the connection you've made and demonstrated the Israeli connection, the Mossad connection to Epstein. So for the audience, lay that out from the start to the finish. What is the strongest evidences you have, and what are the kind of main points that demonstrate this, that Jeffrey Epstein was Mossad, he worked for Israel, and it wasn't some kind of other intelligence or the deep state, as they say?
Yeah, it's funny because it's kind of like the 9/11 people. Like, they're sitting there trying to split hairs about physics when you had people from a foreign intelligence agency filming the event and celebrating it. They want to act like that didn't happen. Oh, it's a big mystery. It's not. Yeah, people are talking about a CHS, a confidential human source, that believe Epstein was Mossad and that Dershowitz was his liaison. I don't know if you've read that file. And I've seen the Young Turks and Anna Kasparian and Shank talking about that. And like, yeah, that's a data point. Like, that's someone's opinion that, whoever this human source was. And apparently they had some audio recording between the two that verifies what they were saying. But we knew this already. Yeah. We knew this already because we have a guy who's still alive, Ari Ben Menashe, who did work in Israeli intelligence. And Israel has more than just the Mossad, just like the U.S. has more than the CIA. There's the DIA, there's the NSA, there's a bunch of things, and Israel has the same. And so in military intelligence, Epstein was brought there to meet Robert Maxwell. He was still alive back then, who was an Israeli spy. And this is how he meets Glenn Maxwell. He laid out the whole story, told you what they were doing. It's when he met Doug Leese, and they worked on a scam that later would overlap with a Ponzi scheme by Hoffenberg and Epstein out of Tower Financial. And Hoffenberg went to prison over this. Like, a well-established thing. And it's just like, no one is interested in the financial side of things. It's only the kitty fiddling. So when you're talking about gray market weapons trades and the crap they were doing in the beginning, there was like, wah, wah, where's the child sex?
Yeah.
I'm like, man, do you want to know his connections to a foreign state? Yeah. And then you look at it on not only that, like, okay, you've got an employee saying he worked there and giving you concrete, verifiable connections of things that we know happened with these individuals and prosecutions and everything. Then, and we know about Robert Maxwell. I'm not going over his whole history, but that's an Israeli spy. He had a funeral for him in Israel, even though the Mossad threw him off a boat in the Canary Islands. You can't blackmail the blackmailers. Epstein admitted that too. That came out in the file. We all knew that too. It's not just Maxwell and it's not just Menashe. It's Epstein's largest financial backer when he got in this network is Les Wexner. Yeah. Les Wexner, hardcore Zionist, starts the mega group with the Bronfmans. Charles Bronfman, by the way, his father was the president of the World Jewish Congress for 28 years. Bronfman, Charles himself and his brother Edgar are in all these different groups. They keep changing, UJA, United Jewish Appeals, which became United Jewish Federations, which now is like the Federation of Jewish Communities. And then it became, they keep rebranding because they keep getting caught doing nasty things. The Bronfmans were financing the NXIVM cult. And the NXIVM cult with Keith Raniere, where, Claire Bronfman, 81 months in prison, like sentence, like this, that's Edgar Jr.'s daughter. They had parties on Richard Branson's island where they're branding women. I'm going to tie this all back to Mossad. Don't worry about it. They're branding women like you brand a cow, like a hot iron. Paddled them, spanked them and humiliated them. They were sex slaves. They were building a dungeon. This all comes out. Human trafficking, sex slavery, total humiliation rituals of these women from this cult. And they got $100 million from the Bronfmans, the family that has the president of the World Jewish Congress, the president of United Jewish Appeals, United Jewish Council, like all these different Zionist groups. They have the word Jewish, but you can ignore that because that's not what it used to be, the Zionist Council, right? They changed it to Jewish because it acts as camouflage, because then if you attack what they're doing, it's like, oh, you hate Jews, oh, you're anti-Semitic, and that's such a canard. Like, It really has nothing to do with Judaism or any of that. It's just like a cult of elitists. They think of themselves as a superior ethnic group, and blah, blah, blah. This is them, not me. This is them, not Jews in general either. This is them. This is how they think. They are Zionists. And so these aren't just some Jewish billionaires. They are at the leading front of the largest Jewish organizations, which help finance Haganah and Palmach and Bercha and all the groups that ended up forming the state of Israel. The Jewish agency, there's a Jewish agency today, but before that, the JA was kind of an umbrella organization for Irgun and Haganah terrorist groups that started the state of Israel. The JA becomes the state, and Irgun and Stern and all just become the IDF. Have the same symbol and everything, with the sword and stuff. I made a movie about it. If anyone's interested, it started off with the sinking of the SS Patria, and then ends with the sinking of the Liberty. But you can see all these groups, and it's Ben Gurion. It's several people who end up becoming prime minister of Israel, though. And way back then, they set up something called the Sonborn Institute that was sort of the financial wing of financing organized crime, whose job it was to smuggle weapons to what becomes Israel, including nuclear material. And I made a movie about that. That's that green map back there on the door. You can see a piece of it.
Yeah, we can.
On NUMEC, Nuclear Material and Equipment Corporation.
Awesome movie.
Long story, very complicated, dropped a lot of names. People can watch that. It's free. It's on Rumble. If you want your head around this, because what Epstein was, Epstein did not create this network. Epstein is 2.0 of a pre-existing network that started in weapons trafficking with these people, deeply involved in organized crime. And I mean like Anastasia, Lansky brothers, all, Dalits, Mo Dalits, and it's a little bit Mickey Cohen, because he donated money to Irgun. All that, they're all together. But the Sonborn, out of that group, with people like Nathan Bernstein and Ted Kulik, Silver, all that, Hillel, which Hillel is not named after him, it's just the same word, name, that is a surname, comes Rabbi Herbert Friedman, and he's right out of the first United Jewish Appeals before the Bronfmans, and he becomes the president of a little group made way back when, because Wexner is 88 years old, called the Wexner Foundation. The Wexner Foundation was birthed straight out of Jewish organized crime from people who end up becoming prime ministers of Israel. This is a state apparatus in America, and the Bronfmans do the one in Canada at a Seagram's Liquor, which is a total mafia front. Have that right here. And with the Keaton Five, this is a long story. I've been over it before, Sean Atwood. That would take, it's too much of a tangent because I want to stick on the Mossad tie. But that is,
again, Ryan.
You want this again?
Yeah, just for the audience. That's awesome.
See how it says pedophile, pedophile, pedophile again?
It does, yeah.
Yeah, the Lincoln Project. Yeah, John Weaver was a pedo.
Appreciate it.
A lot of Lincoln stuff, the Lincoln Project, the Lincoln Savings and Loans scandal. You got the USS Lincoln outside threatening Iran right now. I think Iran should name a missile John Wilkes Booth. I think you would win every Southern American, right? We'd be like, Iran's pretty based. If you were to name a missile the John Wilkes Booth, if you could sink the Lincoln somehow, I'd be delighted. But anyway, I digress. So this Wexner Foundation, of course, Les Wexner, who, later, as the generations go, appoints Jeffrey Epstein to be, he's a trustee of the Wexner Foundation. And then the two of them use the money through the Wexner Foundation and also Liquid Funding Limited and a bunch of LLCs that Epstein made to push money into Reporty, which is then called Carbine, which was a kind of like an emergency response / security spyware company, surveillance, led by Ehud Barak, a prime minister of Israel. He also knew Ehud Olmert and Moshe Katsav, who was the president of Israel, who got convicted of rape. And Ehud Barak was also a rapist. Barak was named by Virginia Giuffre, and it's clearly spelled out in her book. The name wasn't there because she was dead when it was published, so the publisher, I guess, just put a prime minister, like everybody knows which one, brutally raped her on a plane, brutally raped her again, choked her. He's photographed outside Epstein's rape mansion. Like, you can't pick up the phone. You had to go to New York and see him in person in a house full of teenagers. Whatever. Anyway, so you can't. The reason for this is like Israeli politicians cannot legally take donations from Americans and Canadians, but you can put it into a foundation or a federation, what Wexner is more a fan of, and then push it through those into companies that are owned and run by the Israeli who you want to donate money to, and then they can just play with the books and then use it to finance their campaign, and then write up some bullshit loss. Oh, this was spent on this, and it's the same thing they do in reverse when Israelis want to donate to American politicians. They'll just put money into the foundations of people like Miriam Adelson and stuff, who then donated to Trump. But that isn't all hers. That she's just like the collector because she's allowed to. You can see that with Steve Witkoff and Eitan Wertheimer, the richest man in Israel in 2001, the metal cutting company, bribed the police commissioner Bernard Kerik through Steve Witkoff and Simone Cohen, two New Yorkers. Witkoff now works in the Trump administration. And I know you know that because that's all in that red map behind me on my 9/11 film. Shows you how deeply connected Donald Trump is to New York mob. And when you say New York mob, it's a Jewish mob, almost all of it. They were around him anyway. And they bribed the police commissioner who, found a passport. What are the odds? I mean, like Norm Macdonald, like, oh, it says here he found the passport, knee-deep debris. What are the odds? So these people, his entire financial backbone was from this billionaire Zionist who puts him on a foundation donating to an Israeli prime minister, who also ran with defense, who was the person that recommended Black Cube to Harvey Weinstein when he went to jail for casting couch rape. Black Cube, by the way, is a bunch of retired Mossad agents that go around and harass victims. You can't think of nothing lower than that. Trying to intimidate them and get them to drop their cases and things. That's Black Cube. That's what the Israelis do. Yeah. Israel's also a safe haven for pedophiles in general. Like Ari Shur, famous pedophile that was raping 8 and 9-year-old boys and girls, and auctioning them off to his little pervert friends for rape tourism, because that's a thing that Israelis do. Just flees Brazil, goes to Israel. It's another case. IDF soldier set up a rape ring in Colombia, flees, goes to Israel. Like, this is what they do. And Epstein went to Israel when he first got caught in 2005. When they started the investigation, he didn't get. That took some time, but when he got popped at the end of 2007, he fled to Israel. They told him to go back because having that case, they had a great state case, and this guy, his name is Mike Riker. He was the chief police of Palm Beach. Push. Let me tell this story in a minute. Anyway, I must go back to the Mossad because I'm going off on a tangent. Yeah. So anyway, the Wexners are deeply tied to Israeli intelligence, always have been. It's generational. It came right out of the group that existed before Israel existed, because Ben Gurion and all these goons I'm talking about, Israel didn't exist till 1948. Yeah. The same people that stole uranium and set up these networks in America and Canada to steal weapons, set up these foundations from the, all the way from Bronfman's, Wexner, all that stuff is set that up. They are there. They have Jew in the title, but it's all about Israel. It has nothing to do with Jews. It's just racist. Then these groups finance sex cults like the Nexium cult, pop convictions. Bronfman's busted there. Bronfman also financed Ehud Barak. So did Wexner. So did Epstein. And funny enough, Charles Bronfman sold his house to Robert Miller, who raped hundreds of high school girls in Canada. Like, they all know each other. And it's all coming out in these emails. And I got more. Because I dug into the Miller case. I dug into the Nygaard case. I get into all these things. No one cares. But they do a little bit about Epstein. I'm hoping we'll get attention on these other cases too after this, maybe. There are still trials for Miller and some of his cohorts, Robert Boulet and these bastards. So it's very clear that from the beginning, Epstein entered into a network that the Israelis had already made. That all came from Israeli intelligence. So when he's put on as a trustee, the Wexner Foundation, and Wexner's gifting him a house and then all that, that's their guy. And then when you look at when he goes to Bear Stearns, like, why do you think they picked a math teacher who, couldn't finish college to go be the everything job at Bear Stearns? Why do you think Jamie Dimon and these guys want this flunky who can't even spell Virgin right when he writes Virgin Islands? Like, Epstein misspells everything. He may have just been dyslexic, but he's kind of a tool. He's not like some brilliant mathematician genius or anything. He's a midwit at best. He said some stupid thing on video like, I don't think children should learn to write because Socrates, Plato, Aristotle. And the interviewer's like, and Jesus too. It's like, you're dumb.
Exactly.
Plato wrote a lot. So did Aristotle and Aristotle's son. And Socrates might have, but we don't have that because they put him to death and got rid of his work. But Plato was a prolific writer. That's why we know about Socrates. He's a student.
So, Ryan, just a question to you, because one of the arguments you're making is that Lex Wexner is obviously tied to Israeli intelligence and Israel and Mossad, and the family have been so.
Oh, absolutely. But the concrete things what I opened up with, Ari Ben Menashe, an employee of Israeli intelligence, said they brought in Epstein, and that's where he met Maxwell, who we know he did because he's dating, almost married to his daughter. He did meet Douglas. He did go to Tower Financial and did a Ponzi scheme with the airlines and stuff. Like, all that happened. Like, his story pans out. Why would he make that up? Like, he is an Israeli intelligence officer that got burned and told on him. Hoffenberg also said the same thing before he died, Epstein would often talk about it. And he's also bragging about being a representative of the Rothschilds, who are tied to Israeli intelligence. I mean, the Rothschilds helped form the state of Israel. This is the same cabal that did this. And so it's like overwhelming which intelligence agency he was working for. It's not the Russians. It's the Israelis. Everybody around him, everybody in his inner circle is a Jewish Zionist, often with direct ties to Israeli intelligence or government. Ehud Barak, Ehud Omar, Moshe Katsav, Netanyahu, Shimon Peres, like, they're all Epstein people.
So
that's who introduced them to the Rothschild was Perez.
Yeah. So those are like a few points that do demonstrate that he's intelligence. Obviously, those guys admitting it. What about Lex Wexner? What's the evidence that his family were always tied to Israeli intelligence?
Also, by the way, I don't memorize like all the details. Like, I'm telling you who the people were and what the companies were, and they move money around. I know it was 100 million to Nexium. I think it was 2.1 million out of the Wexner Foundation. And then they found out actually it was more like 5 when you add up the installment over time, what it ended up being. But you can nowadays throw that in AI or whatever and like take what I'm saying, check it out, and you can get specifics on all that. If I was to drag out the specifics, we'd be here all day. So if you want me to shorten the answers, I will. But I feel like, no, I want to give them the details so they know this is real. And like I referenced a couple films.
Yeah.
New is free. 9/11 film is also free. Trump's Sinus Ball and Chain is also free. Those 3 films all talk about Bronfman's, Wexner's, Epstein, all of them.
Interesting. And coming back to Israel, coming back to the issue. So they have Epstein. They basically create him, right? He's, as you said, not a very smart guy, not very intellectual, not academic. And he gets a place at a private school. And then his career develops from there, where there's basically this overarching hand. Now,
at a private school whose prime minister was, or not prime minister, his, what do you call him? The dean of the school, lived with a 14-year-old and molested her. Is Gardner P. Dunning. And that school, the Dalton school, is financed, and I didn't make this up, by the Holocaust Builders. It's a Jewish group, and people have this story, and I corrected Cooper on this too. They're like, oh, William Barr worked for Trump and his dad hired Epstein, Donald Barr. Not true. Donald Barr was gone the year before Epstein was hired. And the reason was in 1973, something happened, the Yom Kippur War. And so a lot of American billionaires threw all their finance into supporting the Israelis directly in that war.
Yeah.
And so the donations dropped tremendously for things like the Dalton School, which was almost exclusively dependent on Jewish donors. And so they fired the headmaster and 6 teachers, and that included Donald Barr. It was after that that Epstein was brought in as a teacher for math and physics in 1974, September. Donald Barr was already gone. But if you look at the board of directors of the groups that were donating, it's just jingle bells. And they pushed Epstein in, and some of those people are a lot worse than Donald Barr. But it's not like, okay, all right, Barr didn't do that one, but that doesn't mean they're clean by any means. But if you're going to be, you got to be specific and get things right. Like, he didn't do that. That was a different Jewish Zionist, but Epstein was brought in by the clique. But the reason he could get in is because so many teachers and the headmaster were fired. They were cutting salaries because they lost so many donations.
Well, that's what gives you credibility and gives us credibility, because if something isn't accurate, we won't just run with it and be like, look, that's not accurate, because what we are saying, or in this case, what you are saying is accurate. And therefore you should listen to what you say because you've actually done the research. Now, one of the other things is,
by the way, Gardner P. Dunning hired him, but he did so at the behest of the board of the school. And the board of the school is collecting donations from, you know who.
Yeah, exactly. So coming back to it, Epstein has this multinational, international blackmailing operation. He's got presidents, he's got prime ministers, he's got wealthy banksters, corporations, everyone involved. From the Israeli perspective, obviously you know, but I want you to explain it. What is the reason why they focused on these people? And then it's hard to say this, obviously, but what kind of things would they, from a speculative perspective, get them to do?
They wanted Epstein to spy on U.S. science and technology to steal trade secrets for Israel. And Epstein also just seems to have, he's kind of butthurt because he wanted to be a physicist. He wanted to be thought of as like, I'm the smart math physics guy, so I'm going to hang around with Stephen Hawkins and, Pinker and all these people. But a lot of them thought he was a moron, but they wanted his money. So Joy Ito, for example, and all, they procuring money for MIT, and Epstein would walk around in a Harvard sweater and all. Like, he's kind of butthurt that he couldn't finish college in New York, but he wants to act like, oh, I'm from an elite university, whatever. So some of it was his own ego of collecting people, but he was supposed to be getting trade secrets, and he was more successful in that, not by getting like celebrity scientists around him. That was him doing that. It was getting and controlling donations that went to universities that do R&D with private companies, because the universities will give you the results. And they did that with, for example, with this thing called microwire and I talked to their lawyer, John Anasio. Those interviews are old. They're on ANC report. Just like microwire. You can listen to them. I know it sounds a little but it's important. Like, this is cutting edge technology that's being used in Ukraine and Russia right now, where you can see the electronic warfare can't jam these that have these really thin wires that go with the drone, super long, but it somehow, I guess it's like wired so you can't intercept it. You can change artillery mid shot and avoid defense systems. It's very cutting edge. Israel got all of it. Totally developed by a company in the U.S. in New Jersey, and it was the university that was stealing all their secrets and giving them to Israel. But they do so because Epstein has the donor base for the university. And this is what I said, like there's not a lot of blackmail of politicians, like, they bribe Congress to vote this way or that. Like, no, I mean, there's Governor Richardson and there's Senator George Mitchell, but he blackmailed Richardson so that he could change zoning laws in New Mexico to build Zorro Ranch the way he wanted. That's all that was. But he's a little pervert. But they don't need to mess with the low tier. If you get the donor class, then you get everything under it. And that's what they did. They went right after the billionaire class because they control finance for universities, philanthropy, which is really complex tax evasion that finances other things, and the hedgies, because the speculators drive markets, and Israel can get a huge windfall. The other thing he did was he provided money laundering and tax evasion, and he did things for Les Wexner like that.
Yeah,
it wasn't super clever. It was really simple. He found a place like the Virgin Islands, technically part of the U.S., that, with enough money, he bought his own island. He had bribed the majority of the government in St. Thomas that runs the Virgin Islands. And it wasn't a very clever trick. It's an old thing. Like, he put the first lady on a $200,000 a year salary. $200,000, not a lot of money to these people at all. But it gets you a government. It gets you the governor.
Yeah.
And they created a plan to try and get people to develop in the Virgin Islands that if you spent $100,000 and you had at least 11 employees or more than 10, you could get up to a 90% tax rebate. Well, that is huge, especially if you are making billions. You could save hundreds of millions of dollars. And so they would just push their money through his different LLCs that he created out of the Virgin Islands, and they would just move money around in triangles, just avoiding the tax and greasing palms. The more the money circulates, and it just goes back to where it was, the more liquid you have for black market things like paying off prostitutes and stuff, which they're doing. They're getting hush money. It isn't a lot easier. Like, they're just killing them. I'm like, no. It's way easier to just give them 20 grand than to murder somebody and cover it up. You did. So they did the Dennis Hastert model. Just pay him off and it'll go away. And I believe Darren Endike and all are still doing that, still paying girls to stay quiet. It's not like they're above murdering now and then, but you start with the bribe before you go to the extreme. Like, this isn't the movies. Oh, you say something, I'll kill you. Like, that's dumb. The majority of manipulation did not come from blackmail. They did these sexual escapades because they enjoy it, because they're monsters. It's compromise. It's like a glue. The example I give is if somebody's going to join a gang and like, are you a cop? Like, no, like, shoot this guy, prove you're not a cop. So then you do it. Now you're in the gang. It's kind of like, if you will participate in these orgies and things, you're one of us and you can't leave. It's all glued together. And that's why I think I said on Twitter that Epstein, what we're seeing is he's a peek at the Matrix. Like, this is the Matrix. It's him. You've got a global network of crony speculators bribing politicians to manipulate markets to profiteer, and it's all glued together by sexual compromise. And then you've got this inner circle that's the same driving force that created the state of Israel, like I just explained, with this occultic cabal of elitist sexual predators that get off on the destroying innocents. And there's some parts that people aren't ready for yet, but the Kalergi plan and all that stuff is real. Replacement is real. Like, these people think in racial terms. I don't, but they do.
Yeah.
I'll make that clear. They think that. And yeah, they want to dilute the first world with the third and rule over them. And it's a rich man's playground. You see how many people, they didn't even think it's wrong. They're just mad that they got caught. They want, at a certain point, when you have a lot of money, and I mean a lot of money, do you really need another car? Do you really need a big boat, a bigger TV? Like, you run out of things to buy.
True.
It's women. They just want endless vagina. If you take a thought experiment and tell a guy, like, be honest, don't lie. Imagine you go to heaven. What is it? Endless pussy. That's what the guy's like. If I went to heaven, that means I get to fuck young girls all day. That would be heaven for most men. Women, sorry to, but that's what people are picturing as heaven, is just
just not too young. So now another question I've got
for a lot of people, that's true, and they're like, oh, what do you think? All right, I have a nice family in heaven. Like, no, it's just endless sex with girls. Well, they have the money to do that because the culture has degraded to such a point that there's so many prostitutes or people in such harsh economic conditions that they'll just do it because they don't have many other options, like in Eastern Europe and stuff, and Thailand, that they can just buy women all day, every day. And that's what they want, especially a lot of these nerds. Look, like Bill Gates is a great example. He's a dork, but he's got money. And about the only way he can slay is to purchase it. So he does. This is what these guys are. They're perverts at their core. They don't have principles or anything. They don't mind paying for it. The social shame has kind of been removed, but that just isn't enough. So they got to go lower and lower in age, because a guy like Elon Musk could go to Vegas and buy all the prostitutes.
It's the escalation factor as well. What happens is when you do something, you get desensitized to it, then you want to expand. And that's when you want to expand. So it's like, for example, when a person has an endless amount of women, then he'll try 2 women, then he'll try 3 women, and then he'll try this kind of weird, decrepit behavior. So I agree with you on that. Now,
it's like, I mean, it's like, it's control too, that they want to bang somebody's 10-year-old or someone's wife or somebody. It's got to be, a prostitute's not enough. And it gets weirder, the stuff they do with the prostitutes, with the poop and the stuff Nygaard did with his diaper parties. It's really bizarre. Andrew getting spanked and licking people's feet and all that. Like, it's hey man, you do you, but it's a sickness. It's avarice, and these people think of like status by like acquiring these things. Like, oh yeah, I'm the man. I had this girl and that. Like, but you bought it, so it doesn't matter. Like the real reason a woman is status is because it takes a certain level of charm and wit and like a lot of things to get a girl to want you. If you just hand them money, it's not a big deal. Like, building a car is a flex. Buying one is not. Like, oh, okay, you bought one that someone else made. Boop-de-doo. You had the money. And a lot of these people, they don't produce anything. They're speculators and all. There's an Epstein email about that. The Goyim deal in the real world. The Jew makes money on speculation. His words, not mine, to be clear.
Well, let's talk about that. And actually, I want to talk about that. So the next bit I want to talk to you, the next bit I want to talk to you, Ryan, about is about this thing that you've indicated quite a bit in this conversation, is Jewish supremacy, Zionism, Jewish supremacy. Now, as you said, we don't care. We don't see things like that. We see all man is equal, irrespective of race, religion, or creed. We see everyone as the same in terms
Besides
of
redheads.
Sorry?
Besides the ginger. Right? You hold them as superior, and I hold them as...
Okay, the only supremacy we agree with is ginger. But coming back to it, so in terms of specifically what we've seen in these emails, and as I said, we both agree all man is equal, irrespective of race, religion, or creed. But what we've seen in these emails is something that demonstrates Zionism, demonstrates Jewish supremacy, something we're aware of, something we have a conversation about. And this is highlighted in Epstein's email. You mentioned an email just now, and if you can reiterate it, he mentions Goyim a lot. He mentions the fact that he mentions Gentiles. He talks about how Jews are more smarter than everybody else, and the more Jewish you are, the more smarter you are. Just explain to us this kind of psychology.
His friend was having a conversation, and he told Epstein that Jews have a superior soul. That Jew souls are like higher ranked than other souls.
Who said that?
But that's right out of their own religious text.
Well, who said that to Epstein, did you say?
No, it was a letter to Epstein.
Right.
But Epstein was kind of nodding along. It seemed like he didn't say, that's so ridiculous. He didn't. He was just, they're just like talking about the Goyim. They're Gentiles mentioned 119 times.
Wow. So you said that
Goyim,
go ahead. But just on that, because I wanna see what you said. So on that, someone sent him the letter. Do you know who sent him the letter?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Peter, well, it comes from the text of Maimonides, right? Maimonides says that there's basically Jews and Gentiles. Jews have souls and Gentiles don't, or Jews have superior souls, enlightened souls, and Gentiles don't. So I presume it's from that. But sorry, do continue.
No, I'm talking about like who sent the email, not what text it was. I know the text. Well, yeah, and they have all Jewish parties, and are you 98% Jew or 95%? And let's it's so dumb. But to them, Epstein was a fan of TDS, the right stuff, if that biz. Funny guys. I've been on their show. But they were, I don't know if they are now. I think they've come around, but they were like race realists. And they had a guest on talking about racial IQ and things. And Epstein linked to that and told other, hey, listen to this, guys. He's a fan of that. A lot of these Jewish supremacists and white supremacists have a lot in common. They have this social Darwinistic view of biology and biological determinism, and like this race is like that and that race is like this, and blah, blah, blah. I just give this staggering example. Like I'm in South Korea right now. Like a few miles away is North Korea. The outcome, genetically the same, linguistically the same, completely different outcomes because biological determinism is shit. Like their Koreanness did not save them in North Korea. Like if you have the wrong system, you won't do well. And a lot of success out of Western Europe in recent times and stuff were around the Mediterranean. Before that was because of market forces and free markets, not because of genetic superiority. Yeah. But they don't think like that. And I'm willing to open to that discussion to people who are like, it's race because blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, I'll listen to you and we can argue about that. But I don't want to get on that tangent. The thing is, these people think Jews are superior. They think Jews are a race and openly laughed about it. And that helped them in their dehumanization of the non-Jews that they were raping. I remember Maria Farmer talking about that, saying like they didn't look at us as real humans. I guess Steve Bannon got called an honorary Jew. And he's saying, oh, yeah, I'll drop the Christian on Christian Zionist. Like, what a pig. Steve Bannon is cooked. But him and Richard Branson are sitting there like doing a PR session for Epstein, like how to, after Epstein got caught and registered as a sex offender, like how to mitigate it and play it down. You're not superior. You're disgusting perverts with no self-control. You are inferior.
Yeah. And so another thing I want to speak to you about is when you look at the Epstein Files, there's something you mentioned earlier was about the occult and this kind of satanic worshiping they do. We had a report today that came, well, there's a couple of reports that came out. The first one was,
I know people call it satanic, but that's not who they're worshiping. But if this is on YouTube, I would advise we save that for Rumble because no one's ready for what I'm about to say on the religious stuff.
Okay, let's just do it and then I can snip it out. But go for it.
It's Yahweh. Like Yahweh is the devil. Right. And that's the thing. In Isaiah 45 and 47, he's saying, I create the light and the darkness. And this is what these people believe. Like when Epstein's being interviewed, like, are you the devil and stuff? He laughs because in Judaism, there is no devil. God is both. God is not benevolent. He is, he basically will spare the ones that give him utter obedience and will annihilate everyone else. He is evil and creates evil. And these people in this occult believe in the destruction of innocence. And anyone's like, I read the Talmud. I'm like, you did not. That is like, I read all the Encyclopedia Britannicas. Like it's a whole long shelf full of books. Like you read slips on the internet is what you did. Yeah, it's complex, but these people engage in these like sick rituals. I'm not saying these things are real, like physically real, but you got to understand, and you and I had kind of had this conversation when you were in Korea, when we were talking esoteric stuff. Some of these gods and deities and stuff exist for the same in the same way that money exists. if you're a reductionist, you could say, well, money is just paper. Yeah, physically it is, but it's not just paper, is it? Because of its acceptance as a symbol for X amount of labor and you're trading time and stuff, and it's seen as, a currency and can do the things it does because people believe in it. And as long as people believe and accept money as a medium of exchange for goods and services, then it is real. And these evil deities are real because of evil people. The devil's not a thing out there making people do evil things. It's the opposite. The people doing evil things create the devil or the Satan or whatever your bad guy is in your religion. They think that they can derive power from destroying the light and destroying innocence. And there's nothing more innocent than a baby. And Gaza was a giant human sacrifice. And this is how these twisted fucks think. And they do these little dumb, weird shit in the woods. And they have under the guise of art, they're like eating food off of dead people and stuff. And getting as close to the line as you can with artistic depictions of torturing kids and whipping their feet and all that Podesta stuff. But some of these people, it gets to the point of pedophilia, and then it reaches the point like, you know what, I want to choke the shit out of them like Ed Barak did. And how about I strangle a couple dead and bury them at Zorro Ranch? How about that? It gets darker and darker. These are the most evil people in the world. I mean, they're openly talking about creating conflicts, and it's all for greater Israel. Like, they're just thinking like how to manipulate the public into accepting this war or that. And all these wars, Iraq, Syria, Libya, the one coming with Iran, it's all for Israel. It's not an American interest.
True.
And it's, it's a den of Zionists, that Americans and Zionist Israelis that created all this. Every single pretext to invade Iraq came from this cabal of people like Richard Pearl and Paul Wolfowitz, and Louis Leibowitz, better known as Louis Libby, and David Wormser and Michael Ledeen. He's just a bunch of Jewish Zionists making up crap about WMDs, Robert Kagan and William Crystal, like it goes on for the Peanut Group and Weekly Standard, that lied, along with William Safire and others. It just keeps going and going. And we ended up at war in Iraq over nothing. Probably murdered 1 million people, lost thousands of U.S. soldiers, and ended up with the Iran takeover of Iraq in the end. It's like they didn't care. Saddam was the greatest threat. He shot scuds at Israel in the first war. And they'll say, oh, he was getting off the dollar in 2000. Saddam wanted to be on the dollar. Y'all put him on the oil for food program and forced him to leave out of desperation. But the first invasions in 91, there was no euro or anything to go to. There was no anything. And you invaded him because he was sponsoring Palestinians and he had missiles that could reach Israel. They openly wrote about it. He was a great danger. The only guy that disagreed was Sharon. Ariel Sharon wanted to hit Iran first. Likud wins. Netanyahu wins. They invade Iraq. And they got America to do it.
Yeah, true.
Syria, and you can see in the Epstein Files, they're talking about al-Nusra and ISIS and the rest of it and how they're allowed to attack Palmyra. Like, this was the plan. Yeah. Destroy the land bridge to Hezbollah. Duh. And they're all delighted about it. And me and you and many people, the whole time, I'm saying this is for Israel. They're going to go to war with Iraq. This is what Israel wants. And I'm saying they're going to go to war with Iran. This is what Israel wants. They wrote a script. It was in the Pentagon. We know that from Wesley Clark. But that script is verbatim out of Netanyahu's book. And it's Netanyahu in between his prime ministership. So I wasn't prime minister at that time. Goes and does a congressional hearing talking about how after Iraq we need to go into Syria and Libya. Like and we did, they invaded Libya and basically, I mean, the U.S. occupies a piece of Syria and they're the ones that sponsored all these terrorists. I made a film called Syria, Israel's Invisible Hand. It goes all over that whole thing. Told you so again. But Epstein is kind of admitting it. But you don't need these files to know that. I mean, everyone knows who lied about all these wars. Exactly. And it wasn't the Russians.
Yeah, exactly. So another important topic I want to speak to you about is Donald Trump. So Donald Trump is someone who is now quite extensively in these files. How, from your understanding, and we'll get a few different elements of this, but from your understanding, when it comes to specifically with Epstein, how far did Trump go? Did he go to the island? Did he go on the plane? Did he basically partake in abuse of underage children? Like, what happened with Donald Trump?
He was on the planes a few times. He's got his own planes. So he doesn't have to do that. This is very interesting. He wasn't on the island as far as I know, but he kind of hung out with him before he had the island. There's a funny story. I talked to Hulk Hogan about this, actually. He knew a lot. Weird. I'll tell you that later. But he's on a plane with some girls, I think a girl from Czech Republic or something. Donald Trump, Epstein, Maxwell, Sarah Kellen, and some of the girls. And somebody said so-and-so is white trash. And a foreign girl says, what is white trash? And Trump turns to her and said, it's me without money. What a perfect depiction. Yeah, it's Donald Trump without money. That's white trash. So he was on the planes. He definitely was in Palm Beach. And people need to understand this. Most of the kitty fiddling didn't happen on the properties because that would be stupid. If you film somebody in your own house, you now have to explain to the cops why they're in your house. Like, why do you have teenagers in your house at all? Why do you even know these people at all? You don't want to do that. They did film things, but for their own perverted, trophies. Most of it happened in hotels. You listen to Virginia and people keep calling her a liar. She was verified. Like Epstein's that first raped her got caught in Czech Republic soliciting prostitution and human trafficking and got busted. The school she went to where she got abused did get shut down for abusing kids. When she's talking about Glenn Dubin, they're all in the Epstein files. She did know them. All that happened. She keep getting verified. But when you listen to her accounts, like they would take her to hotels. The one time they screwed up is when they were in the UK and they're at Maxwell's house. And Andrew and her had a bath together and then they had sex. And they stupidly, because she tricked them, she made them think she had Stockholm syndrome. She's like, oh, it's a prince. I want to show my mom. And they took a little Polaroid. And Maxwell and Andrew and her are in the picture. And Epstein's reflection is in the window from where he took the picture. So they're all in the picture. That photo did Andrew in. And it's because they broke two rules. If you like the rules that drug dealers have, never dip in your own stash, never on your own property. And they did both because that was Maxwell's house in London and they're dipping in their own stash. Idiots. Because all three of them had molested her. But it was Andrew's day. And for the record, she also said he was like a 2 minutes and done. Little fast. Prince is a little speedy. But yeah, and he was sucking her toes and he's got a foot thing. I know the feet people, they get it the worst, but whatever. Agreed.
As long as it doesn't break the law. Although we don't do that.
But Trump, he hung out with them at parties and stuff. It was usually at hotels and neutral territory. Not so when people were like, I never went to the island, or I wasn't on a plane, or I didn't go to this party. Like, yeah, they're usually not having sex at parties. That's where you meet them. They have sex in hotels alone. They arrange it like, okay, like with Staley, Snow White's going to meet you here at this time. There's another email from him because the first one we had was, how did you like? Oh, say hello to Snow White. And, who do you want next? Beauty and the Beast. He goes, half of that could be provided, meaning Belle, but not the Beast. Now we have one that says, I effed her twice as soon as she put on the costume, referring to the girl dressed up as Snow White. And if you look at these CDs that are in these new files, which I've been doing, there is one in one of the data set 11, I think. There's a whole bunch of data set 11, but it's most of them just go to Word files and stuff, but there's some with photos, and there is what looks to be like a binder that you'd put CDs in, but they've got little thumbnails. It's a black binder or black background. At least the inside of it was black, and it has Disney. They're in Disney costumes. Now the face is blacked out, but it's like this is Snow White, this is Ariel, this is Belle, this is Jasmine, this is whatever, like the little princesses from Disney. And they would like it's a catalog. Like, oh, how which uniform do you want her to be in? And role play in. That is like, it's more humiliating to the girl. It's like, not only are you going to have to bang this hedge fund manager or whatever. Jess Staley, by the way, had to retire from Barclays, but he used to work at JP Morgan Chase, and he's being sued by them. Diamond threw him under the bus for facilitating a lot of the financial transactions that were paying for this illegal commercial sex activity, which is in the court case that it was commercial sex for clients, plural, and they were not all Staley and Epstein. But the guy arranging it was participating in it, and he did the costume stuff. But it's a little bit extra humiliation for the girl. Like, you're going to role play as a Disney character. Most Disney characters are teenagers, by the way. Ariel's 15, turned 16, has a birthday, whatever. She's a mermaid. It's not real. But, you know, in their world, it kind of is odd that Disney has these over-sexualized teenagers in animation anyway. That's a different topic, perhaps. That kind of feeds into this, and people are like Beauty and the Beast. Belle's, I'm 16-year-old daddy or whatever. Like, she's arguing with her father. I have a little sister, so I've seen all these things. She's 12 years younger than me. So she's like a teenager, but then they have in a ballroom with like cleavage, and they drew it too, like cleavage popping out in a dress, and she gets married, and like all this. They all get married. There's something at Disney over sexualization of teens. But yeah, they wanted to costume them up, which must, you know, the girl must be like, God, I don't have to be this guy, and I got to dress up like this. They don't want to do that. It just adds to humiliation. There's nothing wrong with role play with two consenting adults and stuff. It kind of like the more trust and stuff you have, the better it is. But it's also the worse if it's forced. You know what I mean? It's like the opposite direction. So that,
yeah. And so just coming back to Donald Trump, specifically about him, because you kind of alluding to the fact that he didn't go to the Epstein Island. He wasn't on the plane, but he could have been doing
he was on the plane a couple times.
Oh, sorry, he wasn't on the plane a couple times, but he could have been doing it elsewhere. So, like, in terms of specific...
You could get it on the plane. These are big planes with beds and... Yeah.
Exactly. This is what Elon Musk said, that Lolita Express actually had a bed on it. But in terms of specifically Donald Trump, is there any actual evidence that he did it with Epstein? Because I know your argument was that he was part of a ring, but it was a totally different ring. But in terms of specifically with Epstein,
yeah, I mean, what you know, like, I'm kind of the philosophy of like, why add the extra stuff if you've already got a concrete argument? Don't risk it by exploring something that might not be true and discredit everything else. He already had his own little modeling ring before Epstein. Teen pageantries and stuff, would walk in on them whether in their locker room, and that's already illegal and perverted and gross by itself. And that's all you need to know. He cheated on all his wives, probably still does. That's enough. He, at minimal, had to have known what Epstein was doing and said nothing. He kind of alluded to it. He likes them a little young. He likes women almost as much as I do, and he likes them on the young side. He knew. Everyone who knew him knew. He'd just have topless adolescents at the pool and stuff like that. That's how he lived. And he said nothing. So you're already an accessory to the crime. As far as kitty fiddling, Donald seemed to be a lecherous pervert that went after like model types, Karen McDougal and stuff. Like, a lot of billionaires will fuck playmates if they can. You know, we're not telling any secrets here. There is an accusation from Katie Johnson, who is 13 or 14 years old. And I'm gonna play devil's advocate, but then I'm gonna come around and tell you I want to argue against my own argument. The discrediting part is she waits till 2016 when he's running for president to bring up something that allegedly happened in 1994. And when she was 13 or 14 years old. And the story is, you know, It's Maxwell and Epstein and Trump and a couple others, and they had the girls stand and they would finger check them for tightness. And later on, she's forced to give oral to Trump, and I guess she bit him a little bit. He punched her in the face, and he also raw dogged it. So she's crying, "What if I get pregnant?" He threw some money at her and said, "Get an abortion." That was her story. Comes out in 2016. No when or where or any of that, and then when you're missing those details is pretty sus. But your 13-year-old might not know, you know. But then in the new file, we have somebody who's talking to someone named Alexis. It's a friend of Katie's who has almost the exact same story. Now, they never say Katie Johnson, but they say 13 or 14 years old, about 35 years ago, which would have been 91. But, you know, you could be off by a few years. No big deal. That's how people talk, especially New Yorkers. And she's saying she gave him oral and bit him a little bit and got hit in the face. Now, that is very that's too detailed for it not to be Katie Johnson that she's talking about. That's who she's talking about. So now you have Katie saying that and a friend saying the same story. Of course, Katie and her friend could have gotten together and made that story up. Okay. However, that in 2016, when she said this story, Epstein was not a household name. He really wasn't infamous until 2019 after he got arrested again. Some people were talking about vague, like, who is Epstein? Did he fly girls around? Was he a pilot? Was he kind of. That this girl would know that Epstein and Trump even knew each other at all, and where they would be, and that he had models, because they did. All those details, would be true. They did know each other. Trump did have a modeling agency. Epstein was a child rapist. All that's true. And they knew those details like before it was cool. Now, it could still be made up, but you've got two people saying the same story, and they're saying it before Epstein was famous. Like, why even include him? Just say Trump did this to me if you're trying to smear him in 2016. The fact that, like, yeah, Epstein and Maxwell were there. Maxwell was definitely not famous then, and they knew that. Now, of course, someone could have coached them on that and like, oh, say this, say this. You never know. But that's the data that's out there. And the fact you combine that with Trump saying it's a hoax and doing the binder stunt with these influencers and trying to make it go away. And, he looks pretty damn guilty.
Okay. But
that's the only story there on underage sex with Trump. Prostitutes, you hear that all day. Same with Clinton. That even when he was governor, people were saying that about him. And they tend to. Slick Willie, Jennifer Flowers, on to Lewinsky. He had a nice rap sheet. Trump put a lot of the victims in the front row when he debated Hillary, which is funny, actually. But
probably because you knew them. But just
yeah, they all did it together. And she's like, you were there too, but she can't say that.
Yeah, exactly. So now, in terms of Trump, I think you made a strong argument. But in terms of the supplementary information, you mentioned about the binders with Pam Bondi. Now, could it be, because I know I've heard quite a few people make this argument, not you, because I know this is not the main.
By the way, whenever you asked me before, I said there's no evidence of Trump with little kids. I never said I didn't believe he was with kids. I said there's no evidence yet.
Also, you said that he had his own ring, so you weren't denying any kind of.
No, he definitely was with of age girls. There's so much of that. He definitely did it.
And so now, in terms of specifically, like the argument that why would he hide it? Because he's the binder story, or now he's fought till the last minute to make sure it doesn't get released. But that could quite easily be not because he did something wrong, although it's possible. But also because of the blackmail or pressure he's getting from the Israelis, from the Zionists, or some other wealthy people who are on the files who could take him out. So
I'll reword that. All that, he's definitely getting pressure from the donor class and the Israelis. So it's like, in addition to that, was he participating, or is it only because of all the pressure? Because he's definitely getting pressure from the outside. Exactly. There's no question. I think it was from his base that he did this executive order stunt to try and we're going to release the files. And it was just a fart in the wind. Like there was nothing there. he just they didn't fall for it. It was really stupid. He could have done what Joe Biden did, just not talk about it, and that's that. But they were like, "Oh, he's going to be different. We're going to get, this is it. Trust the plan."
Based on it.
Yeah, so they were actually. He thought, "We'll do this executive order." They kind of did that for JFK, and it worked. They're like, "Here's all it is. That's 99% of the files." Nah. It's like it doesn't matter if it's 99% if in that 90% a whole bunch is blacked out.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not a release. JFK's another story. Israelis had him killed too, and he's all. That's why I'm wearing this. End all aid to Israel. Like that solves it. You cut off their money that they recycle on bribes, and it's over. But yeah, with Trump, his stunt boomeranged, ironically, because of Twitter. And even though Elon Musk is having dinner with Epstein in photos, and he's writing to him saying, "I want to go to the wildest party." He didn't go, allegedly. Of course, he could just be like, "Sorry, I missed it," wink, But he definitely was inquiring when's the best day to go to the wildest party. He wrote him on Christmas and he wrote on New Year's. Like, as soon as my kids leave, I need to do da-da-da-da. Like, oh, okay. You don't want to spend Christmas with your kids and New Year. You want to go do that,
Well, also his disenfranchised daughter, son, who
yeah. Well, now we know why he ended up like that.
Basically claimed that and corroborated that basically Musk was at St. Bart's as per what the emails claimed. I think it was St. Bart's.
Hard to trust his source because his son hates him, so whatever. But it is like keep that data point there. It's not nothing, but it's not very reliable because of the circumstances and stuff. Same with Mark Zuckerberg. They hate each other, so whatever Mark's saying about Elon is you got to take with a grain of salt. But he might be telling the truth. You never know. That Elon, there's some fake messages like is called like Epic Island something. It's not in the file. Someone just made that, like on Photoshop or whatever. But there are real emails too. The Christmas and New Year's thing, I went over it with Sean Atwood the other day. If people want to see that interview, those are real. It's like, oh, hey, I only tried to be a pedophile, guys. But of course, it might not have been pedophilia. There were plenty of, just normal prostitutes at these parties too. And it's what rich guys do. Like, look, rich guys pay escorts. They don't have time to make relationships, and they buy escorts. And escorts are prostitutes most of the time. It's their wives. They're like, I was there with my wife. I'm like, that doesn't matter because they're not marrying you for love. They married you for money. So of course you can go down there with your wife. She doesn't care. She's got her lifestyle and she doesn't care who you bang. And they all know rich guys cheat. Rich guys cheat. Not all. Some of them have a moral conviction against it. Some. But most of them do. And by moral, I mean moral. And I don't mean like, oh, the religious moral. I mean, it might happen to be, might not. Because a lot of these princes and stuff that claim to be Muslim, they cheat the most. So, there's a lot of religion is just performance. They don't take it seriously.
True. Now, another question I've got for you is, obviously you are the expert on Epstein. We've seen a large number of files being released. 2 questions for you. The first one is, what would be the most shocking thing you've seen in these files that you may have not known before? And the second thing is, what do you know that hasn't been released? The biggest.
The most shocking thing is the photos because it's stuff I'd read about but didn't have to look at. And then when you see it, I guess psychologically, like in my mind, part of me wanted to doubt a lot of this because it's so horrible that I don't want it to be true. Like, I know it's true, but not fully. When I see the photos and it's exactly what these girls have described to me, it hurt. It was like, oh, fuck, everything they said. Dressing them up in thigh-high cowboy boots and panties and parading around the ranch and stuff like that is that was shocking. Not like, oh, I can't believe that happened. It's just like knowing, like really, really realizing, wow, this is real. Like, because you always doubt a little bit, and now I can't. I've seen it. It's like, oh, that was shocking in the impactful way. I think you meant shocking, like, oh, I didn't know this guy.
Yeah.
Is that what? It was shocking when I first found it out, but the stuff that's in these files now, I'm more shocked that they put it out than I am that I didn't really see any like, oh, I didn't know about this dude at all. Like, nah, it's pretty much all on the list. They're all right here.
The Epstein list.
But
you sent that in 2023, I remember.
If you want to see this whole thing, ryandawson.org. It's where you can see the film too. I'm going to play this until I have another show. So it might end abruptly. But the whole thing is on ryandawson.org. It's free, along with an interview with Red Ice, an interview with Clint Russell, several, like Sean Atwood. There's like 5 or 6 more Epstein, and I'm doing one with Ethan in a few minutes. So anyway, ryandawson.org, bookmark it, get all your Epstein stuff there. Like watching Peter Mandelson walk around in his tidy whities in a rape mansion is shocking in a way like you don't want. Like, but that, like, dude, whoever photographed that, why?
Exactly.
Other than blackmail.
Exactly.
Why would someone take a picture of a British politician in his underwear at a rape mansion with a let's assume she's a woman, other than either a sick trophy or to hold over his head? True. And you look at the stuff he did, informing Epstein of a huge bailout right before it happened, telling him key things in UK politics, insider knowledge that you could make money off of speculating. He knew. And I was like, why is he running and telling Epstein all these things? Because he needs to keep delivering, or something could get leaked. But that one in the house, it's like they're going to know that house is one of your properties. So why are you taking this? And I think they just took, I think they took them all because it was funny that he's walking around in a shirt and tidy whities. But it's like, look, we could leak this to your family, to whatever, and they don't care what house it is. Like, you're going to get this and this. So some of that is usable in that way, but you can't really go to the press with it.
And also in terms of what is, I would say, the biggest piece of information you have that hasn't been released in the Epstein files.
The whole background that we went over in the beginning of how the Israelis set this whole thing up and what they were doing.
Yeah.
And then, like, they're not really focusing on Wexner, which is the middle of the spider web. It's a lot of goyim, to use their own words. It's Bill Gates, it's Prince Andrew, it's Bill Clinton. You know, they're none of their own tribe. It's weird. But when you say they focus, yes, you just mean Twitter, because there really is no focus. Like the New York Post is blaming it on Russia. And it's Russia again.
Yeah.
Because he did have ties to the Russian mob. That doesn't help your case. What I'm hearing from Americans, and you're in the U.S. right now, you flip on the TV, there's barely anything about Epstein.
Yeah.
They're still talking about ICE and whatever. Yeah. That's the theater. So the fact that they're not telling you anything tells you everything.
Exactly.
Because Rupert Murdoch's in the files, and he owns Sky News and Fox. So, of course, they're not going to say anything.
Exactly.
CBS isn't going to say anything other than 6 guerrillion killed in Iran protests or something, whatever number they're on now. They're, it's TikTok, Zionists bought, cleansed, banning people left and right. People with millions of followers, gone. You have the wrong opinion on Palestine, you're gone.
Exactly.
31 states have laws against boycotting Israel. Like this is the Matrix.
Yeah.
The Matrix, and in the movie they call it, what's it called? Zion.
Yeah.
I mean, they give you, they're dog whistling as hard as they can in that film for you to put it together. Who it is.
Exactly. So Ryan, look, I'm really happy for you in terms of all the work that you've done over time, to see some of the fruits of what you've done. And obviously I hope that you can get on bigger podcasts and get bigger, fame in terms of, not in terms of getting the fame, but in being able to get the message out to as many people as possible.
I don't care. I've offered to people, Rogan and stuff, like, look, I will just give you the information in private. I don't need my face or name, or I don't need the cloud. I don't want it. I just want this story to be told.
Exactly.
Because people will always, it's a double-edged sword. Be like, well, I don't know how to not get fame and get the message out. Like that's sadly how it is. And you almost need to have like a celebrity say the exact same things, and then it'll be listened to.
True.
But that's like whatever works. I'm at this point, like little kids are getting raped. I don't care. Just do whatever you got to do. But yeah, it needs to be on larger platforms. I feel like they have so much risk because they have those things have sponsorships and stuff. And it's by the same people who are involved. So I don't know how this story can really ascend other than grassroots public outcry. And the guy to back is Thomas Massey. They get him on everything. We got to have a person in Congress. We have a few actually, but he's the spearhead who will get the rest of these files out. It's already been ordered. The order says all of it. You can't just, we gave half. That's good enough. No, it isn't. You got to get out the rest of the files. You have to go over the old files. Someone needs to sit down and explain these court cases to people because no one has. And I would be the guy if I could get the platform to do it. I'm happy to do it. But I'm not scared of these people. I put them on a shirt. Where is that? Oh, I think I wore it yesterday. It might be in the laundry, but it's got the list on the back.
Yeah. You've got your Epstein. You've got your Epstein shirt list. You've got your Epstein poster, which I've got. You've got your 9/11 poster, your 9/11 movie. So just and those things.
Yeah, I make these maps all the time. Like they're behind me. It's on. If you go to anti-neocon.
Exactly.
Great name, antineocon.com. You can see the hoodie and all that I don't have on hand, but the maps and everything are there. And it's a way of supporting what I'm doing if you buy stuff from the store, because I'm kind of getting hammered. I'm in the files 11 times. And they disconnected my Stripe from my website right when this happened. So like, I'm getting a lot of website traffic. Doesn't matter. So that's why we're really dependent on Substack and selling things in the store. And I'm going to do a Mick Foley level cheap plug.
Do it.
Boycott Israel coffee. Indall Israel, the $sign on the back. And this package is so worn. Came over from Japan, but this is fun to have in your kitchen. Even when you're done with the coffee, fill it up with something else just to have this.
Exactly.
Just to have this sitting on your shelf. Exactly. But this, it's the coffee's a little bit better than normal, whatever. I'm not gonna be like, it's the best in the world. It's fine. It's the package that makes it though. And I mean, if you're buying coffee anyway, buy it from me, so that it's a win-win.
For sure. And what I do recommend more than anything is for people to watch your 9/11 movie, which is a groundbreaking bombshell movie.
Dude, that's years of my life. RyanDawson.org. A little thing will come up asking you to sign up, which you can click free or $6.50 or a year, or you can just X out of it and nothing. But after that, it's the 9/11 film. It's 3 hours, 59 minutes, and 59 seconds, so under 4 hours. And it's free, and you can watch it there on RyanDawson.org. I would recommend subbing, because all this Epstein news I'm writing every day because it's so huge. It's a little bit of story down. I didn't get into the Florida cop story that I started on some other time, but that's been written about. It's all on RyanDawson.org as well.
Definitely. And I do recommend everyone to watch you and follow you on RyanDawson.org, because it's unbelievable.
You're not going to get this level of research anywhere. I've got a lot of plagiarists and stuff, but I'm the original. I'm the OG. I did the work. They didn't.
I agree. You're the number one without a doubt. I started with
You've seen Michael Tracy argue with some of these